Hello, boys and ghouls. It's your favorite podcast host for the most, the horror heathen for the Horror Heathen YouTube channel and the South Jersey Horror Podcast. Today, I have a legendary actress who's joining with me today, and she's a very cool and all-around fun person to talk to. You will recognize her from The Taking of Deborah Logan. Her name is Jill Larson. Now, a little background story on Jill. You became a model and were soon appearing in major American and European fashion spreads. While in Paris, you also landed your first film role as a Swedish au pair in Deadly Trap, starring Faye Dunaway and Frank Langella. Your next film role was as Jean Moreau's rival for her character's younger lover in the film Dear Louise. You made your Broadway debut in Death and the King's Horseman. Other Broadway credits include romantic comedy by Bernard Slade and Dancing in the End Zone by Bill Davis. Your off-Broadway credits include Mayo Simon's two-person play, These Men, and Terrence McNally's It's Only a Play. Other regional credits include Private Lives, Full Gallop, Holiday, The Seagull, the title roles in Agnes of God and Gypsy. In addition to performing, you produced the Cabaret Review Serious Business. It's Bizness. One of your proudest accomplishments was producing and appearing in Wicked and My So-Called Life, a comedy review written by Winnie Holzman and David Babcock, which ran successively off-Broadway for 8 months, almost a year. That's very impressive. In addition to your... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I interrupt? I just have to correct something. The comedy review that I produced and performed in was written by David Babcock and Winnie Holtzman, who also wrote Wicked and My So-Called Life. Those are separate projects that I was not a part of, just for clarity.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. In addition to your career on the daytime television, you appeared in a number of films such as White Squall, With a World Mind, and Shutter Island, which is another one of my favorite movies, and guest starred in Law and Order, Criminal Intent, Desperate Housewives, and CSI. In 2014, you had the leading role in the horror thriller film The Taking of Deborah Logan, in which you received positive reviews for your performance in the film. Later on, co-starred in horror films Can't Take It Back and The Manor. In 2014 and 2015, you were nominated for your role as Deborah and Logan in the movie at the iHorror Awards for Best Horror Character and Fright Meter Awards for Best Actress. Congratulations on your nominations. That's a big achievement in my opinion. So,
well, thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, all possessed, all unpossessed, I present to you the Miss Lovely Jill Larson. How are you doing today?
Well, it's delightful to be here and to meet you and to learn a little bit about your passion as a fan of horror. So yes, I'm very happy to be here.
Well, thank you for joining me. And yes, I am a lover of horror. As I mentioned before, The Taking of Deborah Logan is one of my all-time favorite movies. I could watch that movie over and over and over. Your character, you had me convinced that you were actually possessed in real life throughout the entire movie.
Well, that's good. Sometimes I feel like I
am. And I'm hard to convince. So.
That's right. That's right.
Being a lover of horror for the past 20-something years, it takes a lot to convince me and to impress me. But that movie, first time I watched it, I was like, yes, this is going in my top drawer. This is one of all-time favorite movies. So...
Oh, well, that's fantastic to hear. We had an outstanding time making it. I was a little trepidatious because, as I told you, I had never even seen a horror movie before. And I tried to watch Rosemary's Baby, but as soon as that scene with the creatures in the basement happened, I had to turn it off. And so I'm maybe, I don't know why, but anyway, I don't have a large vocabulary in the horror world, but gosh, it was fun to work on that. And we were down in Charleston, or in Charlotte, South Carolina, and working in a crickety old house and everything, as you saw. And the idea of doing horror, at least that particular role, was that you really got to sort of open yourself up and release your biggest feelings and emotions and most, I don't know, you could say unrealistic situations. And that scene where I'm in the kitchen and just throwing stuff all over, getting to just have like a 2-year-old tantrum, it was so fun. I just can't say enough that how fun it was.
But you had me scared, which is the good part.
Well, I will say that there were times when I would finish a scene and the director would be standing behind the monitor with his turtleneck pulled up like this and just looking. So I thought, well, I guess that's a pretty good sign. And I've done
that is awesome. That is fantastic.
Yeah, it was fun.
Now, did you have to audition for this role, or were you chosen because of your outstanding talents in previous TV?
No, I did have to audition. In fact, they kept bringing me back. I had to audition 4 times, and I thought, what else do you need to know? But the last time I worked with Anne Ramsey, they paired us up, who played my daughter, and that was really fun to improvise and do some work with her, and so anyway, yeah, it took them a little while to figure out what they wanted.
Like, I can levitate for you. Is that good enough?
Yeah, really. Spew mud.
Turn my head around a couple of times.
Right. That's right. So, but I don't know. I guess horror movies. Well, like I said, I don't know a lot about them, so take my words with a grain of salt. But they seem to me that they trigger something in life that we are afraid of, and that we all have our own demons that we carry around with us, and that these films may give us a way to sort of connect or feel some of those feelings that are our inner demons in a safe environment. When I first started working on the film, and the director said, oh yeah, so you have to have the first gag within the first, I don't know, 5 minutes or something, and that there was a whole kind of recipe for it or formula. And I thought, that's so interesting that you're building an arc so that the audience is like, oh, and then kind of and so that was just interesting to learn about. And I thought, maybe it's like people who love roller coasters, that you love that sort of emotional ride of being so scared and then walking out of the movie and going and have dinner or something. I don't know.
They're going to sleep afterwards.
That's right. Well, I don't know. That's hard, but
my daughter is an adrenaline junkie. She loves roller coasters. So
she does. How old is she?
Oh, she turns 18 in January.
So,
but at a younger age, we take her to amusement parks all the time, and she's like, "Daddy, we're going to roller coaster." And we just went 4 times. I don't care. I'm going to go again.
Right. Yeah. When they're little, man, they get fixated on something. And
but now she does her own writing. She has her own blog, and she's very creative because she's autistic. So
wonderful.
She's very creative. She can draw really well, and her language comprehension has gotten a lot better over the past couple of years.
Great.
She has over 4,000 followers on her blog already. I'm like, this is amazing. So
wow. Well,
she has a great imagination. I will tell her that. And
yeah, because sometimes these kids who have these, I don't know but who have whatever, Asperger's, did you say? Or
autism.
Autism, have very creative and unusual ways of expressing themselves that bring a lot to the world, and So that's wonderful that she's using herself in that way and finding her audience and being able to have a dialogue with people who resonate with what she has to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's retained this. She's been doing this for like 3 or 4 years now. So
Yeah.
she's getting a
Wow.
lot better.
Good for her. Good for her. That's wonderful.
So my next question is, portraying an elderly woman who is battling Alzheimer's, how did you mentally prepare and physically prepare for that role?
um, well, my mother had Alzheimer's just in the last sort of year of her life, so it wasn't severe. But I guess maybe I did that. And I think I looked at some videos of people who had Alzheimer's but I think mostly it's like, I know what it's like to be forgetful. I know what it's like to walk into a room and say, wait, what am I doing here? I know what it's like to walk into a party and have someone come up and say hello, and I can't figure out who the hell it is. So it's not that big a step, really. I hope I don't take that step in my life, but I feel like I get that,
Right.
I have a sense of what that would be, and very sympathetic.
I get it. My grandmother had Alzheimer's disease, so yeah,
Yeah, so you relate to that.
and that's how she passed away,
Yeah,
unfortunately. So because there's one point she didn't recognize me. It was heartbreaking, but
yes, that's right. And I think that, well, I know that the two writers who wrote this, Adam Robitel also directed it, and that this character is kind of based on his grandmother. And so that was, meaningful to him in that way too. So, yeah.
During I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we had so much fun working on this. There's a scene, I don't know if you remember, but there's a scene where I think they're doing a TV interview or something, and then I start to sort of flip out. And the way it was written was that this was a time when I was going to vomit mud and worms all over the floor. And so we had these special effects guys, and they brought like a machine. What is that machine when you blow all the water out of your pipes in winter? Anyway, it was something that would blow air. And so they gave me a tube that was about, I don't know, it was like 1/4 of an inch wide. And I was supposed to hold it next to my mouth like this, and then it would come out like this, and it would look like it came out of my mouth. But I said to them, well, I don't think that's big enough. That's, no mud or snakes or worms or anything. Garden animals can get through this tiny, tiny hose. It's like it just was a tiny hose. And so they brought a garden hose. And so then it was a great big opening like that. And so I'm acting my mind off, my head off, just writhing around with this thing. And all of a sudden, boom, they push the plunger and all this stuff comes out, but it goes all over the wall and all over everywhere, except on the floor where it's supposed to be. And I am acting my ass off. I'm down on the floor. I'm writhing. I'm carrying on. And I hear this laughing. And everybody, they've stopped shooting, and everybody is howling with laughter because the special effect was so bad that there was no way that we could use it, and what they would have to do to recover the house that had now mud and slime and everything else all over it, But so Adam fixed it by saying, there's nothing scarier than a closed door. And so when you watch this scene, you will see that it cuts from my sort of sort of fit And the next scene is the daughter slowly opening the door and seeing me over the toilet, as if I've then they could place all the mud and worms and stuff on the floor.
Right.
And so then you understand what happened, but we didn't have to actually create it happening, and so so it was fun to see some of the ways that the special effects just went so haywire that we had to come up with, or Adam had to come up with creative solutions, and he certainly did. So
It was that scene actually was one of the scariest scenes in the movies.
yeah, and probably scarier because you didn't see the
Yeah.
actual stuff come out.
So was that the hardest scene you had to do in the movie, or were there other ones?
Well, the hardest thing for me was when it was kind of I think it's early in the movie, when I'm in the bed and start to be possessed, and I writhe and fall out of the bed and then start walking down the hall in the hospital. Does this ring a bell for you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And so they said, oh yeah, so now put this fake blood in your mouth. It was like, oh no, no, I can't do that. Okay, I'll hold the snakes, something I've never done before. I'll hold the snakes with my bare hands. I can do that. I can go and do the scene at 3 a.m. when it's 17 degrees out in a little negligee and dig a hole in the dirt for you. I'll do that, but don't make me put that stuff in my mouth. That's too creepy. And of course I had to, but but that was one of the hardest things for me personally. I just wasn't expecting it, and I thought it's going to taste bad. And it was so anyway. That was one of my harder moments.
Well, at least give me some Kool-Aid or something. It tastes better.
Yeah, really. But Kool-Aid is the wrong texture. It's got to be something that's viscous, and
Yeah.
so it was Karo syrup with food coloring. But
So I have to know, at the end of the movie is where you are like partially transformed into a snake, and your whole mouth is covering that girl's head. The prosthetic, was that very uncomfortable to wear?
It was very uncomfortable to make because they made a plaster cast of my whole down to my shoulders here, and that had to sit on me, and I had only 2 straws coming out of my nose, and so I was completely enclosed in plaster, and I had to sit like that for about 15 minutes until the plaster dried. And if you have any kind of claustrophobia or fears of suffocation or anything like that, which I have some of, that part was really hard, and they were looking to make the rubber mask that would do that. However, when it came time, it's a long, boring story. But anyway, that was one of the special effects that trying to do on a real tight budget did not work out. And so we did that after we got back to LA, and were able to use CGI and stuff like that to make that come to life. So
I had a friend of mine who watched the movie a couple of days ago, and he saw that scene. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't watch that." So how do you watch that?
Yeah, I think that's a scene that really kind of cinches the deal, that people really don't expect. But
And I was told there's so many loopholes in the movie about that scene specifically.
Can you tell me, what do you mean loopholes?
Well, I do a lot of research on movies, especially like loopholes, Easter eggs, stuff like that. I do that just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
So there's a loophole in the Taking Deborah Logan, is where at the end you're in the cave and you have your mouth over the little girl's head, and the actress who plays your daughter in the movie, she shoots the gun, and supposedly she's supposed to shoot Deborah in the head, but we don't see a bullet wound until after Deborah comes out of the courthouse, or not out of the hospital. So, but there's nothing there during that scene. So they think that they shot the little girl in order to complete the ritual. So,
oh wow, that's interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting. I'll have to watch that again. I didn't catch that myself, but it's wonderful that the audience is engaged in such a way that they're conjuring their own scenarios around it and stuff. But
And I went back and watched the movie. I was like, oh my God, that's so true.
yeah,
So,
that's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, I'll have to go look at that.
now, was it scary for you to play the role as Deborah Logan, or was it just very easy?
Oh no, it wasn't scary. Well, I mean, there were scenes that were, when you, as an actress, when you're involved in something that's highly emotional, your body doesn't know you're playing. Your body doesn't know you're pretending. And so you can become pretty caught up in, like the Spinal Tap scene
Oh,
or,
ugh.
some of those scenes. Yeah, it takes things out of you, certainly.
Mm.
Your nervous system is really put through quite a lot, but it wasn't, I guess, because it was sort of a larger than life in terms of circumstance. Well, maybe that's not the right way to put it. I'm sure people who have family members who have Alzheimer's and who, some people with Alzheimer's can become violent and very difficult and out of control. Maybe it is realistic. I don't have personal experience with that. So for me as an actress, it was just like, oh, pull out all the stops and go as far as you want, because this is a situation that invites that and requires it. So
Yeah. And the Spinal Tap scene, I had to look away because
yeah,
I couldn't watch. It's like, oh God.
yeah, exactly. That was hard, but so other than that, no, it's not like, I mean, that play I did called Agnes of God. Now that was a play that I dreamt about every night and that I really took home with me. And I guess it's different also with film because you do that scene once and then you're done. So
Yeah.
it's not with a play, you're repeating it 8 times a week. And so the horrors of that were of a different nature, but they really got under my skin, So
Well, you performed that role very well. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, because you had that look throughout the entire film, where you're just like this the entire time. It scared the hell out of me.
but there must be other movies where people who are possessed look like that.
No, but you took it to a whole new level it's such an exceptionally well level at that. So
Well, I did a movie this spring that should be coming out soon. I think it's called Becky Unleashed, and it's a sequel to a horror movie that was called Becky, about a young girl who had great powers. But in it, I play a white supremacist cell leader. That is, we're just about to do an insurrection in the government, and so it's another kind of scary lady, but a really fun one too. So
yeah, I wrote that down so I can mention it in the video. I can
mm,
mention it in the anyway. The
yeah,
one scene that really scared me is when you're getting your hands washed in the bathroom by the young lady who's
right.
doing the
By
research.
my daughter, yeah.
And you just look at the camera like, what are you doing here? Get out of
That's
here.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's what I was saying to her, you know. What are you doing here? Who are you? Mhm.
Well, I am so glad I watched the movie, and I'm so glad I had the chance to talk to you because, like I said, I love that movie, and you in that role specifically, you did it so well, and they couldn't have picked anyone better to do it. So
Well, thank you very much. It's lovely to talk with you and really fun to be here. And I'm just delighted that the movie, connected with you in such a way. That's wonderful.
it first time I was hooked. I was like, this is one of
Yeah,
the best found footage movies I have seen in a long time
yeah.
because it
I
was.
I will say that not too long after it came out, my daughter was at college up in upstate New York, and I was visiting her, and we were in a coffee shop or something, and a young guy came up and said, You're her, aren't you?" And I said, you know, and he said, "No, no. I mean, I can't drive by a woods now." By the woods. He said, that's the scariest movie I've ever seen. I'm afraid to stand near you. I'm going to go back to my table now. And I thought, wow, oh, well, it's having an impact.
Yeah, my job is done.
Right, right, right. So that was funny. But yeah, it's wonderful to have the opportunity as an actor to create something that is so impactful to the audience, and because that's why you do it, of course.
And you connected to so many people on this as well too. So I'm not the only one who loves the movie. I've met other people that I talk to online and on social media who just love the movie and love your role in particular. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's great. That's fantastic.
Deborah Logan has a fan base.
Yeah, all right. Well, that's what I like to hear.
Well, thank you so much
I
for
could do
joining me
Deborah
today.
Logan. Of
Yes,
course.
yes.
Thank
There needs to be a sequel, damn it.
you.
And bring you back in the sequel.
Right, somehow. Well, anyway, thank you very much for having me on your show, and I wish you so much luck and happy holidays to all of your
Oh,
viewers.
thank you so much. And I wish you the
Sure.
best in your career. And I'm definitely going to mention your new movie, Becky Unleashed. So people can go watch it
Yes,
in the
all right.
theaters. So
Yeah, that should be out shortly.
Merry Christmas to you and your family. Happy
Thank you.
holidays. And
Yes.
thank you so much for
And
joining me. I'm super excited I got to talk to you about this. And
great.
I'm gonna cherish this interview for the rest of my life. Just saying.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted to have been able to be here. So
Ladies and gentlemen, the legendary Jill Larson, thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful day and holidays.
thank you. You too. Bye bye now.
Bye.